Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Vagisha and today I am here to share my thoughts on the head-to-head challenge of Miss World 2021. So it's been quite a long time since Miss World competition has begun, and the head-to-head challenge, one of my absolute favorite sub-contest of the pageant, is here. We have seen the 14 groups of young women talking with each other and answering all the questions posed by the host, and this clearly gives us a clear indication of what is the thought process of each of the candidate, how they think under pressure, and what are their ideologies which they are proceeding further in the pageant. So without further ado, let me share my thoughts with all of you. And if you haven't subscribed the channel already, if you're new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe the channel, and also turn on the bell icon so you always get notified whenever a video goes live at my channel. So let's begin with the group 1. The group wise distribution of the young women was a major revelation for me. Before we begin, another commentary I would like to add, and there were many of the candidates whom we did not really expect to do quite well, but they did perform very well. And if we observe how well they speak in their native language, that gives us a clear picture of how beautiful the thoughts of these candidates are. So I was a little bit taken aback and disappointed by a few of the front runners, I would say, and there were many dark horses who appeared through the course of this head-to-head challenge when I watched all these groups interview with the host. So let's get started with the group 1. So the group 1 first of all had Peru, and I would say that Peru is really beautiful, although I did observe that she lacks a little bit of energy. When I talk about Nepal, she was a major revelation to me. I mean, I have observed her journey in the national pageant, and even before when she was competing for the national pageant, I had been in touch with her, and she has always been so humble and kind, and this really reflected in the group 1 of the head-to-head challenge. I was super impressed with the conviction she showed. She was so rooted and she was very soft spoken. I would say that she really fits into the prototype of the Miss World pageant. She's very humble, she's very soft spoken, and at the same time I feel a very strong feeling that she's going to place in the semi-finals for sure, and she may even advance in the top 10 of the Miss World pageant. So I won't be surprised if she goes ahead in the pageant and she performs quite well. Other than that, we have USA. She had a story to tell and I liked her styling. Coming to Malaysia, I was again very much impressed by Malaysia. Did not really expect that she would do so well. But she comes from a medical background and she sounded very genuine. She's very well spoken. The way she talked about her story, her family lineage, that gave me a beautiful indication of how well she has been brought up. Another girl was Portugal, and she talked about her Portuguese identity majorly. So I wasn't very impressed, but she was fine. Next up we had Bahamas, and I love the vibrance and energy which Bahamas showcased in the group 1 of head-to-head challenge. So I really liked how she aspires to be a neurosurgeon. She talked about a story that her father was in coma and how she came up with this dream, with this aspiration of becoming a neurosurgeon. And this really gives us a beautiful reflection of her beautiful heart, that she never stops to dream even in adversity. I fell in love with Nepal's simplicity overall in the second part of the head-to-head challenge where they pose a question to the candidates. I really loved her simplicity, and I also loved Malaysia's confidence, I would say. So these two women were quite equal in terms of head-to-head challenge, and I was super impressed by both of them. So for me, I could not really decide who should be the worthy pick out of the two, so I would go with both of them. Alright, heading to group 2. Group 2 had two of the very interesting frontrunners I had in my mind. It had Indonesia and South Africa, and so I was very excited to see what they have to offer. So when I talk about Indonesia, and she was in my radar before the pageant even began. When she was crowned in her national pageant, I was super impressed to see what she has to offer in the Miss World. And Indonesia has been trying very hard at Miss World pageant to acquire the blue crown, and it is quite visible in the candidature they have been sending years after year. So this year Indonesia has sent a beautiful candidate. I really love her styling. She is so poised, so calm, and she looks very graceful. If we talk about her communication skills, I think she has improved a lot. She has evolved a lot over a period of let's say few months, and given the fact that Miss World candidate got a whole year to prepare themselves for the succeeding edition, because since the last edition was cancelled because of the pandemic, they all have turned up to be super polished for the competition. And although Miss World competition doesn't have that kind of buzz which we see usually for Miss Universe, this batch is super strong. I mean, I have to say this, that there are so many dark horses you'll be surprised to see in the pageant. And again, anyway, coming back to Indonesia here, I think she is quite interactive when she talks about her ideologies, her project, and her journey. She is very comfortable talking about her whole evolution, and she sounds very confident, and she is one of the very strong candidates in my opinion to grab the crown. Coming to El Salvador, she did not really seem to be a Miss World prototype for me. She was quite good, but I was not very convinced whether she fits in the prototype of Miss World. Coming to Albania, she was not very concise. Another candidate I loved in this group was England. So England is quite elegant and graceful. When we see her talking, she talks about her story, how she became a health technology consultant. And she is very well spoken. I definitely see a placement on her cards if she performs well in other sub-contests as well. But only keeping a look at her communication skills, I think she's pretty good. Coming to South Africa, she was and she is the front runner of the competition, and so when she performed quite well, it did not come as a surprise. So she is a very well spoken candidate. She is very genuine. She talks about her ethnicity and roots, and yet at the same time I love how well she is styled and how beautifully she conveys the essence of a modern woman who's not afraid to achieve her dreams. So I really liked her. Next we had Mauritius, and she was kind of okay in the group. So if we talk about group number 2, I think Indonesia stood out the most for me. She was very beautiful. She was very affirmative with her ideas, and she not just talks with her heart, but she talks with her mind. She's super logical, and she reminds me of the bubbly Megan Young whom we saw at Miss World 2013. Who love to play video games, you know. So Carla, you will somewhere remind me of the similar aura. And I liked England as worthy enough candidate to get a placement, and she radiates a lot of positivity. And South Africa is super articulate, so we should not underestimate her because she's going to do wonders in the closed door interview. In addition, if I have to say that South Africa makes it to the top 5, there's no force stopping her to win the crown because she is so articulate and she never deviates from her ideas that it is pretty obvious that she'll claim the title if she gets into the final question and answer round. So she is a force to reckon with. Now coming to group number 3, if we talk about group number 3, I think this was not a very strong group. And we had Namibia, who was quite monotonous here. Slovakia, I did not like the styling. If we talk about Uruguay, she spoke in her native language and she was very sweet. Paraguay was also fine. So the major standout for me in this whole group was Dominican Republic. I really loved her styling. I was super impressed with her introduction video, how she has worked for so many renowned brands, and she has been a great model. She has been a great philanthropist, and she has also done a great, she has also achieved a great educational degree. So all in all, you know, she is a complete package, and I would say that she would do well at any pageant, be it Miss World, be it Miss Universe. I would say that she is somebody who knows how to ace the pageantry. So basically, you know, when we talk about DR, she is such a pretty revelation. and she talks about her story of being an immigrant and how she established herself as a model, and she has been to Project Runway as well. She has been featured in Vogue, and she has a great sense of humor. So apart from the styling, I really loved her curls. She has beautiful curls, and apart from her styling, I would say that I really liked how she was smiling very vivaciously whenever she was posed a question. So I feel that she has a vibrant personality, and that's what Miss World looks for. She's a dark horse, and I think she will do quite well at closed door interview. Coming to Singapore, I think she will do quite well in the talent round because she is very good in singing and dancing. So all in all, in this group, if I have to pick one, Dominican Republic will be the one who would take my vote. Coming to group number 4. Group number 4 had Poland, and I had a lot of huge expectations from Poland because even before the pageant began, we had an eye on Poland, how she is going to perform in the Miss World competition. So I really liked her styling, although I was not very much convinced with how she spoke. She spoke well. It was not like she didn't spoke well. But if we talk about the conviction and whether she sounds convincing or not, I would say that I was not very much convinced with how she speaks. Nonetheless, coming to Sri Lanka, I was very much let down by the styling of Miss Sri Lanka. But if we keep the focus only on the content of her speech, I would say that she has a lot of substance to talk about. And if you see the video, the introduction video which has been filmed, she does not sound quite confident at that place. But if we talk about the spontaneous question and answer in the head-to-head challenge, Sri Lanka stands out with how quickly and how spontaneously she comes up with an answer. So I think she has a lot of potential, but she's not backed with a strong team. Maybe that is her loophole. Coming to Cayman Islands, she also speaks pretty well. Scotland was good as well, but she's not meant for the Miss World pageant, I would say. If we talk about Serbia, she has 2 measures and she smiles very elegantly. She had a beautiful styling, but unfortunately does not impress me while speaking. So I have my points noted down every time I see this closed door interview. I keep on noting down those points because sometimes you just forget what you have seen. So these are the few things which I've observed. I think Honduras spoke spontaneously. So in this group, Poland performed the best. If you talk about the whole group, Cayman Islands was the most spontaneous one. But if we talk about the overall aspect, even in the second part of the head-to-head challenge where they are asked a question, I think Poland spoke powerfully and logically. Sri Lanka was good, but again I was let down by the styling, so I'm not very sure if she's going to perform pretty well in other aspects of the pageant. So I'll go with Poland. Coming to group number 5, we have Angola, Bolivia, Ukraine, Japan, Sweden and Venezuela. So the highlights of this group, I would say that only 2 women stood out in this group, and they are Japan and Venezuela. So Venezuela was already a front runner. We had a lot of expectations from Venezuela. She's a medical student, she's well versed in English, she's very confident and fluent. So when she talks, I really like to listen her. But the only thing which I observed in her speech was that she talks a lot about being a Venezuelan and does not talk about herself as an individual. And that is something which makes me feel that maybe this is what could mar her chances in the closed door interview. If we talk about Japan, she was a major revelation to me. She has been a TED Talk speaker, she has written many children's books, and she is so energetic, she speaks so well, she talks about her cultural roots, but at the same time she maintains her individuality. And this is what makes me like her more and more. So if I were to pick one candidate here, I know that many of you love Venezuela already, but I'll go with Japan. So she has that magic in her eyes, and Venezuela can speak very well in her native language. She's very authentic when she answers in a native language, which she did in the second part of the head-to-head challenge. But when it comes to English, I think she's very fluent, but she lacks the substance when she speaks in English. So if she sticks to her native language, I think she will do extremely well in the final question and answer round if she makes it to the top 5. Anyway, coming to group 6 here, we have Trinidad and Tobago, who was quite passionate, And then we had Guadeloupe. I loved Guadeloupe. She was so spontaneous, like a breeze of fresh air, and she fits the Miss World prototype pretty well. We have Belize, who will do quite well in the closed door interview. Again, she is very relatable. When you hear her, she looks as a girl you know already. Then we have many other candidates as well, but I would say that Guadeloupe and Belize, these two candidates stood out for me in this group. And Belize has the sense of humor and that charismatic, magnetic aura which will make you want to see her more and more. So Belize may not be the talk of the town, but if you observe her, I'm sure that anybody who is logical, who is substantial, would love to see and give a chance to Belize to perform well. So both Guadeloupe and Belize would take my vote here in this group. Coming to group number 7, we have Jamaica, who was quite genuine. After Tony and Singh, they have sent another candidate who is very true to herself and she is very authentic. I like her voice. We have Czech Republic. I was super impressed with the beauty of Czech Republic and I was expecting a lot from her, but somehow she sounded quite pageant patty to me. We have Argentina, who was very confident and logical. Next, in this group, I would say that Jamaica stood out for me. Netherlands was okay. Mongolia was not good. Equatorial Guinea was remarkable. So it was Jamaica who stood out to me in this group. Coming to group number 8, we had Estonia. Estonia shared beautiful thoughts. She was simple yet quite effective. I was super impressed with Botswana. And I really loved her conviction. She sounded so passionate and her eyes reflected that authenticity, and she talks about inclusiveness, and if we see her overall personality, I think Miss World organization is going to love her and she may even end in the top 10 finalist spot. So Botswana was also a major revelation for me. St. Lucia was also smart. So all in all, if I have to pick one, I would pick Botswana in group number 8. Group number 9, Wales was nice. She talks about social media and she says a very beautiful quote that imperfections are beautiful. I completely agree with her. Bosnia and Herzegovina was also quite logical when she said that success is quite a personal thing. And Vietnam, I had a lot of hopes from Vietnam because I had her in my pre-arrival favorites. But she did not sound quite articulate to me in this round. So all in all, I would say that Brazil was the standout in group number 9. I was impressed with her styling and she was not quite fluent with her ideas. She was not quite spontaneous with her ideas. But all in all, in a weak group like this, I think she stood out. And earlier I had huge hopes from her, but looking at her speech, I don't think she's going to advance beyond top 10 or top 15. I may be wrong, let's see. So group 10, Ecuador was quite okay, Madagascar was nice, but again pageant patty. Chile spoke very well, she was very fluent and charismatic in this group. Northern Ireland was also smart, so all in all, Chile stood out for me in group number 10. Coming to group number 11, I think Puerto Rico had a beautiful styling. She speaks very well. She was very relatable and elegant throughout her speech, and I would say that for me, she stood out in this group. Philippines was also quite sweet in group number 11, and France was okay. She talks about being financially independent and she sounded quite genuine and authentic. But again, if I were to pick only one, I would go with Puerto Rico followed by Philippines. Group number 12 had Nigeria, Panama, Mexico, Korea and Spain. I would say that Nigeria speaks pretty well and she was a frontline worker in during COVID. So I would say that we must expect a great BWAP from her and I definitely see her in top 15. Panama was also quite authentic, fluent and spontaneous. Mexico was eloquent, she was very sensible and I do see her in top 10. She has that aura. After Vanessa Ponce de Leon, I think that Mexico is on the right track for Miss World. Korea, I loved her story. She is a very authentic figure. Spain was okayish and although she was a talk of pageant town initially, I don't see her doing quite well here. So I like both Mexico and Nigeria. It was a strong group And group number 13, we come to Rwanda. I have to say that Tony and Singh did a fabulous job while interviewing the candidates. I loved how she added her commentary after every candidate spoke about themselves. Rhonda was very smart and clear in her thoughts and ideology. We come to Ireland. She belongs to a medical background. She's a medical scientist. Belgium won my heart. She is so well spoken. She's a lawyer and she is full of life, full of energy, and she reflects that she is filled with optimism. She has a great styling and I would love to see her advance further. Coming to Colombia, I think Latin American girls do not usually do pretty well at Miss World pageant. But if we talk about Colombia here, I think she was styled pretty well. She was beautiful in her styling. I loved her grace, how she was sitting, the posture, everything was on point. Even when she was not speaking, my eyes went to Colombia. So she looked very beautiful, and she's a teacher and a journalist. So I would say that she has a wonderful presence and that may work in favor for her. Coming to Curacao, she is also a very vibrant and happy-to-go-lucky sort of person. She's very confident. She's great in public speaking. She talks about her story, how she came out of her shell, and how she intends to motivate people through her speech. Finland was okay, so if I was to pick only one, I would go with Belgium, followed by Colombia. And then finally we move to the final group here. Although there are 15 head-to-head challenge groups, but the 15th group has not been released yet. So we go with the last one, which has Costa Rica, India, Hungary, Canada, Cote d'Ivoire and Guinea. So I would say that not because she belongs to my country, but Manasa Varanasi killed it in this head-to-head challenge. I really loved how she radiates grace. She has that star factor when she talks, and I was very much impressed by the fact that both the former Miss World title holders, both Stephanie and Tony, they were affirmative when Manasa was talking to them. So she sounded quite convincing overall. And other candidates like Cote d'Ivoire, she stood out to me in the arrival pictures and in many of the group photographs, but somehow she does not sound very convincing. She does not fit in the prototype of Miss World pageant. She suits more for Grand International or Universe, I would say. But anyway, India clearly stood out for me in this group. So that was it, guys. This was my review, my opinion and thoughts on the head-to-head challenge of Miss World 2021. I'm pretty sure that you must have also realized that who are the ladies who are performing and who aren't. So I'll be coming up with more videos in future, so stay tuned. Again, hit the bell icon and I'll see you guys super soon.